no off subject. Just go.
Okay, yeah. No, but when I first needed glasses, I thought, oh, well, these glasses look cool, and I could make it so they're also sunglasses, so the transition lenses. And
Oh,
I thought, this is so cool. I'm gonna look so cool. I get home, and at that time, my girlfriend, now my wife, she's sitting there and she's like, well, why'd you do that? And I was like, well, check this out. Don't they look cool? And she's being
and she
supportive.
goes,
She's like,
no.
yeah. No, she's like, yeah, they're nice. And I was like, they're
That
so
was that
cool.
was that was before you got married, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
now she would tell you straight away.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I made that mistake once because now, or what I realized is anytime I went in somewhere, they never went back to completely clear lens. And so because of
Yeah.
that, people would always think I look sick almost. I'm like, oh, that's not what I want. So it was, yeah,
No, no.
that's first time with glasses.
Glasses is a big subject. Glasses is a big subject, and it's also a subject you have to get acquainted to. I mean, I think I'm at glass number 25. I'm quite happy with these, but this lasts like 3 months, and then I'm not happy with them anymore. And
Yeah.
like I told you before, I'm cheating. So I got every pair double. I got it once for short-sightedness and once for far, so that people don't realize I actually need progressive glasses. So whatever I'm doing, they look the same, but they're actually different ones. That's
Yeah.
me. That's me.
That's a riveting way to start off a conversation, isn't it? Glasses.
Oh, talking about glasses. Look, different glasses.
Look at that. Talk about
Chin chin.
transition. No pun intended.
There we go. Did we do that?
So
Something.
So yeah. So all right. So tell me a little bit about what you're drinking right now, and I hope everybody else grab a glass. It's Sunday. Let's enjoy ourselves.
Exactly. Let's do that. So mine, as says on the glass, actually, is some Syrah from Tablas Creek. And Tablas Creek is quite dear to our hearts and to our money, actually, because my husband is a co-founder of Tablas Creek. It's in Paso Robles here in California. And more than 30 years ago, we weren't together yet. I didn't know him yet. He was in finance. He was one of the co-founders of Barra, for people who know a little bit the finance industry from that period. And he just left them, had some good money coming out of it, and had some friends saying, you know what, we want to start a vineyard in California. So this is a partnership between a French vineyard called Beaucastel, and the owners are the Perrin brothers. They have among them, I think each of them have 5 children. So they have a huge vineyard in France, very reputable one, but they also wanted to expand, knowing they have so many children. And the Haas family was from Vermont, and they imported French wine to America for long, long years. They're one of the premier importers of European wines into America. So it was the Haas family, the Perrin family, and my husband and a couple of smaller shareholders that started it off 30 years ago. And there is a saying, if you never want to make money, go into a vineyard. But you have good wine. So better investment in Tesla than the vineyard is worth a lot of money today, but it's obviously nothing liquid or whatsoever. And so the liquid we have of it is every year our partners
right
allocation with quite a lot of, exactly. And so that's what it is. And I have to say, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but their Syrah, I mean, all their wines are great, but their Syrah is really exceptional.
Yeah. So we
and
have.
What are you drinking?
Yeah. So where I live, I mentioned to you last night, I live in downtown St. Petersburg. If you guys don't know where that is, it's the easiest way to know where it is. It's either where Tom Brady lives or it's where Kathy Wood's ARK Invest is headquartered now. So one way or another, just to give you an idea where I'm at. But so we have this amazing bottle shop wine store with these 2 guys opened it up. One's from California and the other one, I believe, is from some part of France. I don't remember. But they love wine. And so they bring in all these different wines from all over the world that you never would have heard of. And so in the spirit of this conversation, we took the Tesla with full self-driving beta. We went there, 0 disengagements. And I asked them for recommendations for a Syrah from southern France. And so they turned me on to I'm curious if you've ever heard of it. It's from a gentleman called Matthew Barrett, and it's called Petit Hours.
Oh, how
Mowers.
cute. Petit ours. Yeah. Petit ours means little bear.
Little bear, yeah.
Yeah, very cute bottle.
Yeah, so they're saying that he's kind of has a cult following. I guess there are like 7 generations of vineyards in their family, but he's also known as the Disco Bear, like wine breeder or something of that
There you
nature.
go.
But they're saying he's like really well known, and what he's most known for is not having a traditional label because with wine the label
It's
is
true.
such a
I mean,
big deal.
there's not even, it's not paper, right? It's right engraved into the bottle, if I saw it right.
No, it is a sticker. You can peel it
It's a
off.
sticker.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Because
But
we're currently, I mean, and when I say we, I mean Tablas Creek. We're currently experimenting with different types of. Tablas Creek is one of the first sustainable vineyards here in the United States. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous vineyard, but it's also having sheep and llama and dogs. I mean, it's a paradise for everybody that goes there, and they're very. So it's the son of Bob Haas, one of the founders, that's now running it. We're passive partners, just going there to enjoy the view and the people there and whatever.
yeah.
But what's really beautiful is they're always trying to become even more sustainable. And so one thing they're doing now is boxing in paper boxes. So you have not for the high-end wines, but for the normal table wines, you have your box in your fridge and has a little thing to open it, and there is no glass, there is nothing. Everything is recyclable. And a very good initiative. Love it. They're doing it for the rosé, and they're doing it, I think, now starting it for the white and the red as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's
So
funny. I'm gonna put this on silent here on focus mode.
On focus mode, and I'm still struggling with my new earphones. You see, the other earphones I tried, they stacked, but the mic wasn't working, and these are still pulling out. But there I go. I'm just gonna push them back in on.
So you're a very interesting person. And this isn't obviously, if you don't know who Tesla Boomer Mama is or Alexandra is by now, then you have not been watching anything on YouTube, right? You've been everywhere. But when I first started watching, some people interviewing you, I started like, who is this person, right? I mean, because I'm a very
no. Give me the truth. You're who's this old cow?
Well, no, I'm not the type. I'm a person that's always skeptical about what people say or what they're any messaging. Even like with my family, if they say something, I'll think, okay, maybe you're right. I'm not gonna say you're not, but I need to look it up. I need to find out for myself. And so when you were doing all these interviews, I was thinking, okay, I mean, I like everything you're saying, obviously, but I have my own biases too, like that. But who are you? What do you do? What's your background? And I looked you up, and your background was so impressive. So you, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to give a quick timeline. You were born in Germany. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you lived there for a period of time, and then you went and you worked or studied in France, or both?
Well, I actually studied in London.
Okay.
That's why I still try from time to time to have a bit of a British accent, but it takes 2 seconds and then it's gone. Where I met my first husband, who is French, and was pregnant during those studies. So I had my first child still studying. It was one of those cursuses where you were half of it in a foreign country and half of it in your home country. So the first 2 years I did in London, the last 2 years I did in Germany, then already with my baby. And I understood very quickly how old was I when Johan was born? Wait, he's 31 now. But 20, no, he's 32 now. 22 when he was born. And then I realized, as a professional that I wanted to become, and being a mother, that wouldn't go in Germany then. It just was impossible. And I always wanted lots of children. So I thought, where can I do that? So my husband was French, but living in London, I hardly spoke any French. I had some French in high school, but it was one of the courses I dropped the quickest because there was just nothing that happened. And but I thought, the French, they're very clever with letting women work and having childcare from young age and having subsidies for nannies at home and whatever. So I said to my then husband, how about we move to France? He said, no, I still have to be in London for a while. I said, how about I move to France? So I moved to France, didn't speak French then, had the baby with me. I still remember I was in a Volkswagen Golf. That was something. And got a job at Deutsche Bank, who was looking for somebody speaking German but knowing finance. So that was my first job. I was on the trading floor of Deutsche Bank, and we had a nanny at home. We actually found a neighbor who had a baby about the same age than Johan, and so we shared a nanny. She came 1 week to our home, to our flat, and next week to the neighbors, and that worked out fine. And that was my first job. It sounds crazy now, but it just fell in place, and that's actually true all through my career. And if anybody hears me now who is in the middle of a career change or whatever, just do it. It always ends up working out. I mean, I had anything but a linear career, but in the end, one thing came to the next, and it always worked out. Were there tough moments? Yes. I mean, when you have 5 children, there are always tough moments, divorce in the middle and whatever. There are quite a lot of things. But I have to say, if you're open about it, be opportunistic, just jump on the next occasion, do it. So go ahead. What else did you understand? Yeah. So now I'm in France. What did you understand after that?
Well, the fact that you had 5 children to begin with, and you were still doing all of this. I mean, it's funny. My wife and I, we always talk about how we'll get done with our work day. Maybe it's a day where I'm filming a YouTube video. We got to cook dinner, and by the end of the day, we're sitting there thinking, how do people have kids? How do they do it? Let alone five children. It's crazy. But recently we were just in Alicante visiting my father and my 2 little brothers, and they're younger. But just hanging out with them, what we realize is it gives you energy. It really gives you energy to keep moving, because we were never really tired. Eventually, they went to bed, and, we all had grown up time. We called ourselves the 3 a.m. crew, because we'd stay up till 3 a.m. every night drinking wine and just talking.
So you have 3 boys? You have no sisters, right? You're only 3 boys.
I have 1 sister. So
you were 4.
So I'm number 3. Yes, there's 4 total. Yes, 1 sister, 3 boys.
So you see, your parents managed as well. It's doable. I mean, I know it sounds crazy in today's world, but it is doable. What's the secret that it worked? Probably the secret is that I never really asked myself whether I should keep on going, because if you start wondering, you probably don't do it. But I think a couple of things worked out well. First of all, I always spaced them 3 years. So the youngest one was always ready to walk, go to kindergarten. There was already, a rhythm when the new baby arrived, because you have to understand the first 6 months, the baby just messes up everything, right? The whole family life. So that was good. And I was lucky in having always alternating boys and girls. So I have a boy, a girl, a boy, a girl, a boy, which helped a lot with not fighting and whatever. My children, honestly, I never have, never any physical fights, and even verbally, they're very respectful of each other. Then the other thing is, the best thing, obviously, I did was finding the right husband. So my second husband was 20 years older. He didn't have children when we met. And he is, I always call him Papa Poule, which in France means, a hen, but a father hen, right? He does everything. He cooks. For the last 20 years, I have never cooked. Not breakfast, not lunch, not dinner. I'm cleaning. I'm doing my part. Everybody looks at me always like, what, doing nothing? Yeah, I'm ironing. I'm cleaning. I'm doing all my stuff. But I'm not cooking. And that's actually a funny story, because when we first met, I had prepared a dinner for him. So he came to my home. I was freshly divorced, and I was all proud to serve him dinner. And we're sitting there, 2 romantics looking in each other's eyes. And he started eating, and he looked at me and said, "Do you mind if I go in the kitchen and fix this?" And I was like, "Yours, do it." And that was it. I was not doing any cooking anymore.
That's hilarious. I'm in my head. I know he's not French, but I'm picturing like Gordon Ramsay. Disgusting.
Oh, he's French.
This is
yeah. He looked at that chicken and he was like, "What shall I do now?" I'm like, this is a romantic dinner. I want this woman, but I really don't want to eat this.
All right. Be honest. Was that intentional? Did you plan that?
No, it wasn't, but it was the most clever strike I had, I have to say. So from then on, he was doing the cooking, which was good. And then since his career was, done, he's investing, he's looking after the vineyard, but he's not on a day-to-day basis working like I did. So from the beginning, the deal was that you look after the kids. So he inherited 3 children, and I gave him very quickly number 4 and number 5. And he couldn't have done a better job, I have to say. He was doing the school runs, he was doing the homework, he was doing all that side. So then it becomes easier. So was it a 50-50 job? Probably it was 50-50 job, but in day to day, he probably did more than 50%, you see. And I think that's what's so important, that today people understand this has to be a teamwork.
Yeah.
Nobody can, I so feel single parents. I have no idea how they do it, because I couldn't have done it. So that gave me all the space to have my career, my big mouth moments, which I had, no doubt about it. And I was always able to concentrate. And I'm quite a good salesperson, so I was always making good money, which was important, because if you have 5 children all wanting to go, to universities, private schools, and all the rest, you better make money. But it was a fair deal, because I enjoyed what I was doing and he enjoyed what he was doing. So it just worked out. And you have to find a partner in life with whom it's going to work out.
Yeah. No, I love what you just said there about being teamwork and being a team. We were driving, my fiance and I were driving to the Boston airport. I think it was in January. It was after her niece's baptism. So we were driving back. Her dad and her mom were driving us to Logan Airport in Boston. And when we were driving there, her dad randomly said that he sees us as a different couple than others. And, I inquired, like, what do you mean by that? I was like, I don't know how to take that. And he said that, other couples work certain ways, where maybe one person's more dominant than the other, but you two are just very clearly a team. You do everything together as a team. And my father said that to us recently as well. And to me, it's like the highest of compliments. I don't want anyone to think, it's like,
it really is, right. And it was really funny, because when my children went to school, and they just found it absolutely normal that dad is cooking and mom is working, right? That was just a fact. It was, nobody in our house ever discussed that. It was just, that's how it fell in place, and everybody was happy doing it. And it doesn't mean that he's not working. Of course he's working. It doesn't mean I'm not cleaning or ironing or whatever, but just everybody does their share. So when they had discussions with their friends who had more traditional parents and said, well, in our home, mom works and dad does the cooking, people couldn't believe it. I always won, and that was true in Germany and in France, in America. So it's not just in one country. But I'm really pleased. I really feel that things are changing. And what I really would love, if I could help women understand they can be mothers and professional. And I mean, my big theme about egg freezing, I always want to make sure young women understand there's just a small window they can have children. And if it doesn't fit in, they have to look after egg freezing. But if all that falls in place, well, what the heck what society thinks about you, right? What the heck if people don't find this traditional? It has to work for you.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So I'm going to deviate a little bit here, because now I'm more curious. You'll notice I just, there's, things come up and I just get interested. So you lived in the UK, or in London. You didn't speak really French at all. You essentially stopped in university or wherever you were learning French. You marry a French guy, ironically enough. You moved to France. So clearly you speak French now, I assume.
Yeah, I think actually French is my best language now. It is, right? In Germany, I come from a little town in the Black Forest where they speak a heavy dialect, which is close to Swiss German. So that I can still speak. If my parents call me, I instantly switch to this dialect. It's called Schwäbisch. But proper German, Hochdeutsch, I really have to make an effort. I mean, of course, I can speak, I can read, I can have a conversation, but I will struggle for some words. Sometimes the grammar may not be completely correct, and it's just been so many years that I haven't done it intensively. French we speak at home. I educated my children in French. They speak well now. Now they're trying to speak to us in English, but that's like a no-go. I mean, you have to understand they are now 19 to 32. And when they come back to me in English, I still go, no, on parle français. And so that's our home language. That's, how we curse and how we scream at each other and how we enjoy things. It's all in French. I speak now more and more English just because of my job, because of all this YouTube exposure and whatever. But my English is not perfect. It's good enough to go around, but people quickly detect that I have and it's funny, people think I'm either French or German. They don't have a clear cut whether I'm having a German accent or a French accent. It's just everything speaks well.
Yeah, no,
ladies is a mess.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if it's just a nature of people who grow up in Europe, but my stepmother, Natasha, she's very similar to you with regards to that. She's from Bristol, but she speaks so many languages. She speaks, like, when you hear her accent, you would think, are you British or are you Spanish? What are you? But she speaks Spanish, she speaks Portuguese, French.
And is her English still pure British, or is that getting lost as well?
It depends. What do you mean by that? You mean like a comparison between like someone from Newcastle or someone from like the Queen's English, or are you speaking just like
so funny
her
that
accent?
you say that. Yeah, that's so funny that you say that, because I'm actually not very good at British accents, but my son is, Oscar, he is. So we're always having a blast. He's very much into Premier League football, so he's always having a blast of, copying the Arsenal dialect or the Bournemouth or whatever. And I'm having or Scottish, not even talk about it. But it's true. I'm sure you see that with your stepmother as well. More languages you speak fluently, but I mean, never perfectly, because you'll never have a mother tongue that you didn't have, or only very talented people. More you lose a little bit of the other ones. It just there seems to be a limited space in brain for languages, and it has to become something natural.
Yeah. No,
so you speak what? You speak only English, or you speak Spanish?
Spanish was actually my first language.
There you go.
But I will say it's not my strongest language at this point, just because I speak English on a day-to-day basis. But like we were just, like I said, in Spain for a couple weeks, and I feel it come back, and it gets stronger and stronger. And after about a few days, all of a sudden I'm thinking in Spanish rather than thinking in English. And it's funny to see that change. But French has always been a language I've loved. Like my parents, there's these cassette tapes called Muzzy back in the day.
Yeah.
And to help kids learn how to speak French. And so I learned a little bit, a very little bit, not enough to string sentences, but yeah, so the words here and there. But I always thought French was the most beautiful language. It's so velvety, smooth, silky. Yeah, it's just it's just.
And I have a completely different intonation when I speak French. It's really funny how I mean, in German, I'm so bossy. When I listen to myself in German, I'm going, oh my God, this is really bad. In English, it depends on the subject. When I'm really getting wrapped up, I get into this bossy German style. But in French, I have a completely different position of my tongue in the mouth. It just it smoothes out. It's completely different. And I think that's why I choose. I mean, did I do it really, consciously or not? But that's why it was the right choice of educating my children in French. That was just the right choice. There's so much culture that comes with the French language. Also, eating, appreciating food, and lots of things that come with the French culture and the French language. And I still think that was the right thing. They, like I said, they're losing it a little bit like you now. They will still all say, yeah, French is my first language, but they're all speaking much more English than French now.
Yeah. I think it's inevitable, especially if you live in the States. But it's good to go back and visit and, try to keep it right.
And you're going back again, right? You're going back this week to Europe.
Yes, to Europe. Yes, we're going to Greece. So we fly out on Friday, I think. I should definitely know. Thursday or Friday. I'm pretty sure it's Friday. But yeah, we're going to officially get married, have a ceremony. So yeah,
that's going to be beautiful. How long are you going to be there?
Not too long, just about a week. So I gotta get back. I still work.
And that's the right season to go to Greece. That's it. Yes. I mean, you have the best weather ever. No more tourists. It's just going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So you say you still have to come back for work? Yeah. Yeah.
I still work. I obviously you still work as well. I don't know how to. I don't know how to be like Farzad. the easiest way.
Nobody knows how to be like Farzad. Yeah, we all wish, right?
that plunge to just say, all right, we'll just live off investments. I'm like, oh, I don't know yet. I don't know. The problem is I really like what I do still. So, it's.
So what do you do as a day job?
So I won't say what company I work for, just because it's one of the biggest companies in the world. So just for anonymity, like I hide my LinkedIn, like you can't find me on LinkedIn. But I am a software systems engineer. So I deal a lot with cybersecurity. I deal a lot with offshoot of AI and neural nets and things of that nature. So I deal with a lot of this space that Tesla happens to be in. And the funny part is, before I was ever invested in Tesla, my background as an engineer is actually mechanical electrical engineering. And then
Wow.
I got bored with that. I got tired of that. I wanted a change. And somehow I guess I'm good at selling myself. But I stalked a company during their engineering summit where all their engineers worldwide came together, and it happened to be in Orlando. And I went there. I met with a hiring manager, and he's looking at my resume. He's like, "Why are we here?" And I pretty much told him, "Listen, I'm an engineer. This is an engineering role. At the end of the day, being an engineer isn't knowing XYZ. It's knowing how to learn, being able to absorb material and then explain it to people, hopefully in a more simple way with analogies or metaphors, or just, to take, because if you can't explain something to someone, if you can't explain it to a 10-year-old, you probably don't know it that well yourself, is what I always say. Or if you can't come up with an analogy for it, you really don't know it that well yourself. And so they took a shot on me, and they said, all right, here's a test, here's a project, go do this project, present it to us, and then we'll see from there. And
that was how many years ago?
That was back in 2018, I think. So
okay, so 4 years already, and you're still enjoying it.
Oh, I love it.
There you go.
I love it.
And as long as you enjoy your job, I said that to somebody last night who was on Twitter and asked me, should I retire because then I can have my 401k money and put it all into Tesla and all that, which I fully understand. But if you like your job, if you feel there's a purpose in what you're doing, if you feel you're good at it, why spare yourself from this monthly income that helps you actually to invest even more money into Tesla, right? You don't need to be a full-time YouTuber. You seem to enjoy yourself and have enough following like that, right? And I mean, if ever it only gets a job for a salary, fair enough, right? I understand that if it's really a burden and if you don't like doing what you're doing. But I mean, I still feel really a purpose in what I'm doing. There's nobody in the whole of the United States who does what I'm doing. And I just, I made it up and it's useful and I'm highly successful at it. And there are two things to it. First of all, I love it. Actually, three things. I love doing it. Second, I earn a lot of money. And third is I think I'm really useful for the people I help. And there is nobody else who can do it at the moment. There should be. I wish there would be a lot of competitors doing it because it would just make the whole thing much more interesting than being the only one. And my clients have to wait now 3-4 months to get a first appointment with me. But as long as you love that, why not, right?
Yeah.
There is a reason why we are where we are.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and in case Farzad watches this, don't go back to work because I watch your stuff too much and you occupy a lot of my free time. So this is for everybody but you.
Exactly. And for that, you have to fix my mic because it didn't work.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah. So he does have a job. He's got a full-time job. He's
exactly
going into
to fix my stuff.
Yeah. So eventually you ended up moving to the States and you started your own companies.
Yeah. Like I always started my own companies.
Wow.
So the funny thing is, well. That's a good question. Good thing I never asked myself. So I worked at Moody's. Let's keep that behind because we're not talking credit ratings. When I left Moody's, which was under quite some circumstances, and I was actually thinking, should we talk about that today? And I think I can't yet. I think I have to talk to my lawyer first because I left Moody's in really weird circumstances, which has no influence on today. But I just think the whole story, I would like them to get out with it first because it was really nasty on their side what they did. But if they don't, I think I just have to check whether my non-compete, no, it wasn't a non-compete. My NDA still covers me 19 years later. I mean, I have no regret and no remorse to them. I'm not talking out about Moody's because of that old story, but it was quite a story. So anyway, I left Moody's and I set up a competing rating agency, which from day one had $14 million, not 14 million euros actually, of annual revenues because all my clients followed me, which actually shows this whole system of rating agencies. They are linked to an analyst. Once they feel that analyst understands them, they don't want to stay with the rating agency per se. They follow the analyst. And so I did that for 3.5 years and then sold my shares just because it became too much. It was very controversial what we're doing. I was a lot on TV, big mouth. I mean, whatever. So in 2007, I left the financial markets and set up and founded again. So that was my second setup, a real estate agency in the south of France in Mougins. Mougins is the most cute little town in the suburbs, in the hills behind Cannes, where the film festival is, between Nice and Marseille on the south of France. Couldn't be more romantic, beautiful. I was selling villas between 2 and 25 million euros. And I absolutely loved it because I took it from a very analytical angle. I used all my analysis skills, had very high-end clients, absolutely loved it. And my husband had actually left the United States. I told you he was a founder in Barra. He had this shares in the vineyard. So he is a PhD from Berkeley. So he had lived in the United States up to 1997 when he crossed my road. That's actually a cute story. If we have 2 minutes, maybe I should tell you this one. So I was just hired end of 1997 at Moody's, and I got this phone call from the secretary of the president of Moody's in New York, calling me and saying, Alexandra, you're a new analyst. The president wants you to meet this gentleman. He's French. He's a consultant to Moody's. He's called Michel. He's coming in April to France. Can you meet with him? Of course, I wasn't going to say no. I said, yeah, sure, no problem. So a couple of months later, April came, and he was there. It was Friday, about 11 o'clock. Came into my office in Paris, in Rue Aubert, and said hello and sat down. So I had never met this gentleman before, 20 years older than me. The most ugly Hermes tie that you can imagine, one of these yellow things with ducks on it. You have no idea. He sat down and he said, do you want to marry me? And I was like, excuse me?
Get out of here.
Excuse me? Exactly. What are you doing here? And he was like, well, I just had the biggest coup de foudre. This is it. And I was like, look, we're going to work. I'm married. I've got 3 children. This is all going to be fine. Don't worry. We're just going to talk now, ratings and whatever. So that was that. And obviously happened what happened a year later. And he's always telling me, you see, you lost a year. You weren't quick enough. There you were. And so a couple of years forward, left Moody's, gave him 2 children, but we were still not married because I went then through that divorce. And I just felt like, getting married was no option. And came February 2005. And he said to me, you know what? So we were living together in Mougins. I was working for Scope, this new rating agency. And he said to me, how about we go out for dinner tonight? It was February. Take your coat. I said, what do you mean, take your coat? It's February. Of course I'll take my coat. They said, yeah, we're leaving a bit early. We're leaving at 6. I said, okay, let's leave at 6. So I had my coat at 6 o'clock, and I was not in a good mood because, being bossed around, being told I have to leave at 6 o'clock with my coat is not really what works. So anyway, I had my coat, went in the car, and he drove me to Monte Carlo, Monaco, which is, next to Nice. A very beautiful restaurant called Louis XV, which is a 3-star Michelin restaurant. And he had privatized the whole terrace. Now, don't look so astonished. Nobody in February wants the terrace, right? I mean, it's all a cute story, but I'm always like you, asking myself what's happening. So we're sitting on the terrace in the coat. There you go with the coat. On the table, he had reserved all the menu. There were still Christmas decorations because in Monaco in February, they're not done yet with the Christmas decorations. So there we were. And after the main dish, which was pigeon, which is my preferred food, came the maître d' with another plate and a cloche about it, and there was the ring, right? And on that ring it said, how about with the 5 children, because now at 5, on 555, May 5th, 2005, and these 5 carat, you finally say damn yes. And I was like, okay, damn yes, let's do it.
Oh, that's great.
The cutest story.
Michel, bravo.
Bravo, right?
Yeah.
That was the cutest story. So there you got it.
That's
got
great.
the story.
Yeah. And 5 carats. Yeah. No one's going to say no to that.
That's nice.
He made sure. Right? He made sure. The only other way you could top that would be the Hope Diamond.
This man knows how to talk to a lady, right?
Yeah. That's how you start.
Exactly.
Hopefully my wife's not listening.
I'm sorry.
No, that's brilliant. Yeah, no, I'm a sucker for a romantic story like that. My so I went to a military academy for college, and me and one of my best friends at the time, or still to this day, Spencer, we used to have every Sunday we would have what's called chick flick Sundays. So we would just watch these romantic comedies every Sunday, just sitting there on our
I
laptops.
love
Like,
that.
I'm a sucker for it. So as
There you go.
much bravado or ego I tend to have, I'm just a softy inside for any good story. I this is funny. I literally cried at the end of Mamma Mia.
Oh, but I cry, and still today, 56, I still cry when I see Bambi. When they kill the mom, oh my gosh, I'm
yeah.
gonna cry here now. It's just, I can't do it. That's Disney for me, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so, I made the whole loop. All the thing was, so yes, we arrived in the United States because, so my husband came to Europe for me from 1998 to 2014. And in 2013, by now, he's a clever guy. He organized a West Coast trip. So we arrived in San Francisco, nice hotel, drove down to Santa Barbara on the wharf. Was like, oh, isn't it beautiful here in California? And I mean, what can I say, right? And driving the Grand Canyon and the whole thing back to San Francisco. So multiple times in that trip, it was like, oh, if only we could live in California. And I mean, I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. So at one moment, I just said, you really want to come back, right? And he said, well, and then I thought, this has been 15 years that this guy was living in Europe for me and hated it. As a Frenchman, he hated living in France. I mean, we were very privileged, lived in a very cute place and in a nice house, whatever. But he wasn't happy being in France. So I just thought, what, it's not for me to keep somebody in a country where he's not happy. And at the same time, our oldest children started. The oldest was already living in Vancouver. The second was Marie was going to start her studies in San Francisco. So I said, fair enough, let's move to California. So I looked after the visa, and we got the visa in May 2014 and moved here in July 2014. And very happy to have done it. I mean, I was not delighted to do it, but in hindsight, it was the best thing we could do.
So what about now? Now are you delighted you did it?
Yeah. I mean, Santa Barbara is not for me. I find it the wrong place for me. I'm certainly not the right person for California. It's too left for me politically. Let's just call it what it is. And Santa Barbara is a size. It may be very practical and romantic, and we're living 100 yards from the Pacific. It's all beautiful, but there's not much happening. They call it the city of the nearly dead and newlywed, and I'm neither, right? I'm not dead yet. I'm not newlywed. So I need something a little bit bigger, more excitement, and we need better restaurants. I mean, coming from the south of France, we were too much spoiled, and in Santa Barbara, there are not enough good restaurants.
No, you need good food. That makes sense. But
that's it, right?
You got Michel. He's going to cook for you. So
yeah, it's cooking. He does. That's true.
That's all you need.
The restaurant.
So
that's true.
So I did happen to listen to your interview from yesterday with Darren, right?
Darren, yes. From Singapore. Isn't that funny that he came from Singapore?
I love him. I love him. I haven't ever spoken to him, but yeah, his stuff is great. But he mentioned, or I guess you mentioned on that interview, that you guys moved here and you were already on the electric vehicle. You understood what the idea there, and now it's not me who understood. Michel understood. Oh, okay.
So Michel understood. Michel understood, and he said the second word, because we actually tried to have the Renault Zoe in France, and it was like wait lines and complicated, and the dealership didn't want to sell it. I mean, it was the same story already then there in France, who was a little bit in advance in electric vehicles compared to Germany or other countries. So when we came here, the first thing we did, we purchased a big Mercedes for the family, because then there were still 3 children living with us. So we needed a bigger car for, family outings and whatever. But we wanted a small car to run errands, and that was the BMW i3. And it was really a cute car. I mean, to run errands, it is small range. I was thinking about it. Michel, what was it, 50 miles or 80 miles? He doesn't listen to me. Typically, he must have his earphones on. So I think it must have been 80 miles range. But so it was constantly plugged in, right? You would do a ride, as short as it was, you would come back, you would plug it back in. But it was small in size, very cute inside. They did only with sustainable material. It was a really cute car. BMW completely screwed that when we had to give it back at the end of the lease. I mean, you have no idea how bad they are. The tires, even though they were new, they were not new enough. And any little scratch was $2,000 this and $2,000 that. I mean, that was learning curve of never doing anything with BMW again. But it was good. And then we wanted the Model 3, but it wasn't available yet. That was 2017. So we took the Bolt then, which is electric, 100% electric as well. And that was a decent car. I mean, it was certainly an upgrade from the i3, not in looks, but in range and in performance. And then came the big moment in 2020 to finally get my Model 3.
Yeah. So in the interview from that was posted today, so yesterday, you talked about that sequence. All right. So you got the BMW, then you went to the Bolt, but then you said that you got your Model 3 and that changed everything for you. And all of a sudden you guys went investing heavily into Tesla. So when I was hearing you say that, my initial thought was, so did you invest in BMW after you got that electric vehicle? What about GM?
No. Oh my gosh.
What was it? What was that?
We had a diversified portfolio with a heavy bias. You will never believe that, to Intel, but that's not me. That's Michelle. So up to now, we're selling only nice things about Michelle. Now we're coming to the subject of Intel. That's another thing.
Up to now, he's been a genius.
Exactly, and then comes Intel. So there we go. So I had my mix of stock, Microsoft. I think I had a bit of Apple. It was a typical mix of 10, 15 stock, but nothing major. And I didn't have huge savings. We just moved here. We still had the house then in the south of France that's sold now, but at that moment it wasn't sold yet. So it wasn't as if we had huge liquidity, but it was instant that we said, everything we have to put into Tesla, which we did, and we were well rewarded since with it, because it's just been the right moment in March 2020. But I had this feeling, this is so generational, this is so different, and I think it was because I had electric cars before. I don't think I would have had the same reaction or the same understanding if I would have come just from a normal ICE car to the Tesla, because I wouldn't have noticed how different it is, even as being an electric car, right? I mean, the whole infrastructure, the whole software. When we were in the Bolt, I cannot tell you how many times we went to the Chevy dealer because their internal system didn't work, didn't connect with the phone, didn't connect with the GPS. It was linked to Google Maps. The whole GPS was a whole nightmare. But even, talk on the phone and have the connection, just nothing ever worked. The whole connectivity was a nightmare. And you went into the Tesla, and the guy for the test drive to say, "Can I have your phone?" Duck, 2 seconds. And now my phone was linked to the car, and now we could drive. And I didn't even realize that he would know where our car was, right? Because at that moment you don't understand that they can actually track you wherever you are. But the experience was just so different. It was like, coming from the Middle Ages to something modern. I felt really like there's a film in France where people from the Middle Ages with a time machine suddenly arrive in today's time, right? That's exactly the feeling I had.
All right. So this is where I tend to take tangents into different conversations, but we'll come back. I want to continue on here, but one of my favorite movies is, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Midnight in Paris.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, such a beautiful movie, isn't it? I mean,
there you go.
Talk about that time machine kind of idea, but yeah, I love it.
So that brings me to something else. Why do you have these time posters behind you?
Oh, yeah. So great question. So you can't see all of them. There's 3 of them. There should be a 4th, which I will put up. It'll be of Jeff Bezos. But so when my first, I guess, foray into anything really engineering wise really came from my father. He's also an engineer. But I remember I had this school project and I had to do it on, I forget what the context, what the project was, but we went to Barnes & Noble to buy a book, and I have it somewhere here. I won't stop here and record, but we got this book that's like this thick, like 400 pages on Nikola Tesla. And I didn't read it all, but I got through enough of it where I knew enough information. I was maybe like 9-10 years old. I was young. And that book got me in so much trouble in school.
Why?
Because we would have moments where all of a sudden I knew all this information, all this real knowledge. It'd be, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Nope, teacher, nope, that's not right. That's actually not true. Nikola Tesla invented the light bulb. electricity. Oh, Thomas Edison. Actually, no. Alternating current, that came from Tesla. And it would be this on. And I had this report I had to make, and I got in trouble for the report because I was wrong about stuff, and I had to debate and bring the book in, and it was a whole thing. But Nikola Tesla was really kind of my first entry into like the coolness of engineering and Tesla coils. If you've never seen a Tesla coil, they are the coolest things in the world. I mean, he had such visions. He was literally an Elon Musk of his time, except he wasn't celebrated. He had these ideas of having free electricity for entire towns. He had ideas of cell phones and how it could work. I mean, he was just on another level. He's very much like Elon. So that's why I have this here, right? Because it's just kind of to pay homage to like where I came from. The next one I have is of Steve Jobs. And I was always a fanatical Apple person when I was young. I loved the iPod. You know, I just thought the idea of the iPod was so incredible. And when I was I was just going to ninth grade, and I always had a job. I was always fascinated with money. As much as I'm an engineer, I love finance. I love making money or finding ways to make money. And at that time, my stepfather saw this in me. And I was saving money in an envelope. I had maybe $3,000 in this envelope that I was saving from tutoring kids and then working at a pizza restaurant after basketball practice. And I was saving for a car. I want to buy a Ford Focus. I was like, I want to buy a car when I'm 16. I want to buy it. And my stepdad came up to me the Christmas before my 16th birthday, where I could get my driver's license, and he said, I have this idea for a Christmas gift for you, but I don't know if you'd want it or not, or if you'd be interested. And I was like, well, what is it? And so he said, well, I was thinking about helping you open up a brokerage account so that you can buy stocks, and I would be your custodian because you're underage. And immediately I said, yeah, done. Let's do that. I want to do that. And so we did that. So he gave me 10 shares of ExxonMobil, which he had bought back in like the early 80s. And so like I saw that in my portfolio every day at like something like 500% increase. And I had 10 shares of that. And so I had $3,000 in there. I hadn't bought anything. And, you know, he told me like, do your homework about what you want to invest in. And at that time, I was geeking out on technology and I was looking things up, and I discovered the coolest thing. Microsoft had this rumored product coming out, and they had like little like demos of it, of what was called the Surface Table. So we know what the Surface tablets are, but this was a table, like a coffee table.
I remember exactly.
Yeah.
And people were sitting around it. I remember. I was there.
It was the coolest thing. You could touch it and everything, and that never came to market. But in my research and doing that, I stumbled upon this article about rumors of Apple coming out with a phone that would have the same touchscreen. And I was like, well,
2006.
Yes. And I was like 16 years old, right? That for me, I was born in 1990. So all these stars are aligning. And I was like, I want to buy that. So right before the iPhone came out, I put all my $3,000 into Apple. And so Apple was my first ever investment. And I kept it for a long time. But so that's why we have Steve Jobs.
Did that allow you to buy the car, or did you prefer not to
I never bought. I didn't buy my first car until I graduated college.
There you go. Good for you. And then what's the third one?
So the third one here is Elon Musk. For obvious reasons, I don't need to tell you. But Jeff Bezos should be up there. He will be up there. And the reason Jeff Bezos, because so I put all my money, all $3,000 into Apple. And then I had stopped working for a company. So I had my 401k, I rolled it over to an IRA. And then if you guys don't know about a backdoor Roth conversion, check it out. You should know about it. I rolled it over to a Roth IRA, and I just took all that money and threw it into Amazon. All of it into Amazon. And that's the second best investment I ever made besides Tesla.
Yeah.
It did crazy for me. And then Tesla, obvious story, but the point is that is where I really was cemented in the fact that I don't believe in diversification anymore. I don't believe in it at all. I believe in finding great companies and going all in. I mean, Warren Buffett has a famous quote about it saying, you only need 2 or 3 good investments in your entire life. That's all you need. Yeah. And so that's the impetus of this channel. And so that's why these guys are here. They're inspirations and
good. Well done. Because that is true. And I mean, if you see, you are from St. Petersburg, so we can talk quickly about ARK, because I'm following ARK every day with the other funds. Because I like the fact that we have everyday access of knowing what was at one point one of the big whales is doing, right? And that's rare enough. But what killed these ARK funds is the fact that they want to maintain a maximum 10% limit in their funds, and with diversification comes this whole illusion into stock that's just not performing as well. You can't have 10, 15, 20 winners, and they have at least 30 stock in their portfolio, and that just doesn't work. It doesn't. I was a fund manager. I've been there, and I've had to change my mind. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, what I realized happens is, like, for me, it's like, oh, I did so good in Apple. Okay, let me find my next Apple. And then nothing, bad investment after bad investment. Or you do, here's 5%, here's 10%. Oh, boom. Amazon, so good. All right, let me find my next Apple, Amazon. Try here, fail. All these stocks I'm in, and then boom, Tesla. And what I've learned over time is sometimes you don't need to find the next one. Sometimes you just need to stick with the winners.
That's
David
true,
Sachs,
and that's what. Yeah, and that's the advantage retail investors have, right?
Yes.
As a retail investor, if you don't need the money, you can just sit it out and wait for it. And actually, you're probably much better off sitting it out than trying to option trade, going to margin, or change your strategy. Fund managers don't have that. Fund managers have to be compared on a daily basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, and that's why they're feeling they have to move around and find the better opportunities. Does it work? Most times, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. No, exactly. And have you ever watched the All In podcast?
Yes, I watch it all the time.
Yeah.
Love David Sachs.
Same.
Absolutely love the guy.
But if you listen to their intro, you hear David saying, let your winners ride. And that's exactly what this channel's about not worrying about diversifying so much. But if you have a company that's winning, like a Tesla, like don't try to find the next Tesla. Like let that winner ride.
Yeah. Exactly, and there's still so much to come. We're still so very early in what Tesla is going to come to.
So let's talk about that, because I'm very curious about your perspective. I've heard you talk about creating indices nonstop. I know where you stand on that. I understand what you're trying to do. We all get that message, but there's enough content out there on that. What I haven't heard you talk about, or anyone ask you really, and maybe they have, I just haven't seen it because you're everywhere now. So it's hard to keep up with all your content out there.
Sure. And I just hope it's not overkill. I want to really help, but sometimes I think, oh my gosh. Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
Where do you see Tesla going from here? The stock itself, like forget about the company for a second, because that's a whole different conversation. Where do you see the stock going? Maybe 2030, 2025. How do you look at it? You must model. If I model these things, I imagine you model these things.
No, I don't, which is actually the strangest thing ever. I've modeled so much stock in my life. The only thing I know about Tesla is that I don't need to model it. That is the strangest thing. Don't spill your wine now. Don't do it. It's not the moment. But it is true. When I look at James, I just watched his videos. They're absolutely fabulous. What he's doing is great. So there's no point doing the same thing again, slightly different. I have one conviction. Today, Tesla is not worth $300. In my view, it's already 500 or 600, right? It is suppressed. It is suppressed for various reasons. Wall Street. I even think Elon is happy with where it is at the moment, but it is not where it should be. For me, in a year, this should be worth at least 700. Now, this is more of a belly feeling, little bit of napkin math, where we will be in car deliveries and where we'll be in margin, because I do believe margin is actually going to increase. But I'm not doing all these models over the next 10 years. I'm utterly convinced this is gonna multiple various times, 10 times, 20 times, whatever. I don't need to have a precise price there to be convinced. I'm all in. I'd rather be there, just sit it out now. When I start modeling, I start becoming impatient. And another thing I do, I start option trading, just because I know how to do it. And then, once you've done all these calculations and whatever, and you think it should be at 450 or whatever, you start buying options. And I just don't think that's where I want to be these days. I just want to sit this out. I don't want to start becoming a short-term trader again of all that. I've done that in my life. So I'm there. I'm very comfortable with the stock. I think it's still way too cheap now. So I keep buying every time I have money in. I'm getting actually very stingy in my private life just because I want to put so much money into Tesla. If the choice is between buying a new bag or buying a new furniture or buying it, or Tesla. Well, it's Tesla. There we go.
Yeah,
But
that's me. That's my biggest
I'm not.
expense. It's my biggest
You know,
expense.
and I don't know you, but me, once it's gone, once it's on the brokerage, it's as if I have no money. I would
Yes.
not touch it. I had to touch it to buy some to pay some taxes this year. My gosh, it was like a 2 night struggling with myself. Oh my God, yeah, I should pay these taxes on them, without accruing interest on them. Yeah, I'll pay them. Yeah, I have to sell the stock. It was horrible. It was as if I was divorcing from the stock, right?
Yeah.
And I'd bought it back all since. But no, I'm not modeling, and it's really strange. I think I've talked to Farzad once about it. I don't have the need to sit down and calculate it through. I'm convinced, and that's it. I know this is generational stock. I know this will go very far. Whether I'm right on a 3 or 5 or 10-year horizon doesn't matter. It will go up.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, I kind of have the same philosophy. Once it's in my brokerage account, it's as if I've spent that money. It's gone.
Yeah,
I've
gone.
since I was in ninth grade, when my stepfather helped me open the brokerage account, I have never taken a cent out of that account ever.
Wow, good.
Yeah, so it's something I'm kind of prideful about. But again, that probably ties into the whole thing. Like, I don't know how Farzad does it. Like, how do you, how do you just say, all right, we're going to live off these investments? Like, no, not yet. And so, that leads me to another question. I think a lot of people who at least watch my channel and in general, a lot of people feel the same way, right? Let's say they became as Warren would say, a Teslaionaire, and they have enough to live off of. From your perspective, or let's say you were in that situation, none of this financial advice, just put that out there.
Nothing.
How would you go about accessing that? Because there's several different ways as far as I'm aware of. I mean, one, you could sell. That's pretty straightforward. You could take debt out against your assets. Okay, you could do that.
Go into margin.
Or or you could do something where, say, you sell some puts against it and you live off that. And that's like Chicken Genius, right? Very famous YouTuber.
Strategy.
That's how he says he lives off of, right? He'll sell 100,000 worth of Tesla puts, and that's what he lives off of. So, but what would your strategy be, or is there any other strategy out there?
No, not that I know of. The thing is, short-term option trading to cover my living expenses, I'm very happy I don't have to do that. That's why I'm still working, right? And I actually don't think I feel the need to stop working. I'm very happy to dedicate at the moment 5 days per week intensively to my work, and the other 2 days I spend on YouTube and Tesla. But it's a good equilibrium. First of all, it keeps me grounded. I mean, the kids are out of the house now, right? I have this extra time. I don't have this need anymore to address the children a certain number of hours per day. So the time I have for Tesla is by far enough. I don't feel I need more time. I check the stock price twice a day. That's by far enough. And I don't need to get any money out of it. If that moment ever comes, I don't think I'll go into short-term option trading. It's just because I feel the stock for Tesla is too volatile for that yet. Maybe if the beta comes down, it's currently at 1.6, but then the options won't pay much either, right? Then
just to be clear, what he does is he does a long-term. He does like a leap sold put. So,
yes, okay.
Yeah, so he's not, so like I think he's got videos out there, but he has one where he's riskier than I would be, but he sells at the money. But his whole idea is like right now we're at 303, and his thought is, do you really think in a year from now Tesla's still going to be at 303? And that's his rationale. Is like just napkin math. Do you really think that? Now, on that same note,
he does it covered by. So he does it covered by his stock, right?
Yes.
He buys those puts.
No, he sells them. He sells a put,
the puts,
right?
Yeah.
So that means he's bullish on it. Yeah.
Exactly. I understand he sells the put, but he has to cover them with his own stock, right? He has to have underlying stock for it.
Yeah, he says he has cash and stock ready to buy if it happens. And his whole notion is, okay, so if you force me to buy it at a lower price, thank you. All right, I was going to buy anyways.
Well, I mean, that's probably clever. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't see myself retired, so I haven't even thought it through whether I would really, start selling stock. I can't imagine selling stock. I really feel this is something I want to give my children once I pass. I want to make sure this is, the way of giving our wealth to our children. Obviously, there's a vineyard as well, but there is something else. And I really hope I don't get into a position where I have to start selling the stock. That's probably the least likely scenario of all. Probably would go into margin, because that is just the way you control it the quickest, right? Because if you have to get out of margin, well, then you have to sell. But until that moment, you do have, and there, I don't know your broker, but where I am, they're about 40% margin, which is a lot of money, a lot of money.
Yeah, I use Fidelity, and honestly, they probably don't have the best rates on different things. Yeah, but it's what I've always had, and I mean, that's not a good reason to stick with anything, but it is my. I know it so well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so you got everything with them, IRA and everything with the same?
Everything financials with Fidelity. Because I do have a military background. I also have USAA, and USAA is where all my checking account is. So I keep the two separate. So my checking account is what I see as like, this is money I have. The second it goes into Fidelity, it doesn't exist.
It's gone.
Like, it's gone. It's spent.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Psychologically very wise. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and my wife and I, we keep separate accounts too. Like, and for that very reason, we just said psychologically, because the way we see it is, like, I track every cent we spend, everything. Like, I have a spreadsheet, and then I'll Venmo her at the end of the month, like, hey, this is your cut, this is my cut, this is what we owe for the bills. But we keep it separate, because if we'll just use these numbers, if she sees 10,000 in her checking account and I see 10,000 in my account, okay, we see 10,000 in that checking account. But we see 20,000, you feel like you have more than you do. But the second you show a smaller number, it makes you just spend a little less. And it's
I
just
completely
a trick.
agree.
Yeah.
There's so much psychology in it. I completely agree. I always try to have my checking account quite empty, just because then, if it takes a real effort to put either the money, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't sell Tesla, but if it would really take an effort to get the money in to buy something, you just ask yourself twice, do you really need it? And you probably don't. I mean, we need so little. We have so much and we need so little. So there's a lot of savings to be done by being careful.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So I was, I might've been reading into some of your tweets a little too much regarding things Gary Black was saying, but you keep me honest here. I feel like you're not a believer in Bitcoin. Is that true?
Oh, I hate Bitcoin. I completely hate Bitcoin and crypto. There's nothing. There is nothing there. I mean, you probably believe it, right? It's your generation.
So I believe in the idea of Bitcoin, in the idea of something that is not controlled by any one nation, something that is completely decentralized. I mean, just the same way I believe in decentralized electricity for our grids. The same way I believe in, just anything decentralized, just to me, it helps prevent corruption in one way or another, because there's no one.
It's a beautiful dream. Completely agree. So
with that, I agree. I don't know if Bitcoin, if any of these coins, or if it's even possible. And I hate to say possible, especially being a Elon Tesla fan, but it just seems like look what happened with China. China completely excommunicated anyone doing any Bitcoin mining or anything in their country. I feel like you need to have some institution, some country really put their backing behind it, and not a South American country that is barely hanging on.
Exactly.
Right?
Ecuador or whatever. Exactly. And the thing is, you remember I told you the first year I was on the trading floor, I was actually in currency trading, right? I was actually selling packages where currencies were underlying to corporations, whatever. So my first year in the financial markets was going into currency. And at that moment, the euro didn't exist yet. So there was French franc, Italian lira, pesos, and all that. It was a mess. Countries kept devaluating. And it taught me one thing. A currency is linked to the economy behind it, right? It can give you extra breathing room if you need it, if you devalue it, but you pay very expensively afterwards in all your import and exports. So I learned the economical functioning of a currency in real life at a very crucial moment leading up to the euro. And when I started looking into Bitcoin, initially I said, okay, it's a currency, right? It's a currency that's independent. There is no single economy behind it. There is no single gross domestic product behind it or whatever, but it is a universal. It's like the euro, but now suddenly for the whole world. But behind the euro, there are economies. There are people working for it. There are tax incomes. There's something happening. Behind the Bitcoin, there is nothing. And more I was looking at it, more it sounded to me, and I've come across a couple the last 30 years, like a Ponzi scheme, right? Where the last man standing is going to lose everything. He's going to lose his shirt. It's just one, as long as there's enough demand and as long as they manage scarcity, because that's what it is, there will be people buying it because thinking they can make a buck and sell it more expensively. And some people may be in it for the long game and say maybe not, but I just don't believe it. And I don't. And I've looked, it's not as if I haven't looked at it. I mean, I looked in detail into Bitcoin. I looked a little bit into all these altcoins, and that was it. I mean, didn't spend more than half an hour to decide that this is even bigger crap. But then I just decided this is not for me, and I would not trust anybody who would put my money into Bitcoin, because the story is that I'm actually invested in Gary's fund. I was looking for a little window for half of one of my IRAs, and because I just wanted to have a little cushion that's not Tesla. Not that I don't believe in Tesla, but I just wanted to have some urgency money that was tucked away and whatever. And so I looked into the ARK funds. I wanted somebody that still believes in Tesla, because I can't trust anybody who can't see Tesla, right? I mean, I look for something that is alternative to Tesla, but the person still has to believe in Tesla. That's how screwed up I am now. But
no, but that makes sense. It shows you how they think.
Exactly. And so I looked at the ARK funds initially, and that's why I started looking at them in detail. And I really thought, this is not for me. This is going crazy. This is not my thing. Then I looked at Ross Gerber, and Ross was heavily at that moment into the cannabis stuff. And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm too old for that. I mean, I've had 5 kids. I have a couple of stories to tell about cannabis, and I'm certainly don't want to support that further than necessary. And then
we'd love to hear.
I didn't have. No, you don't. You don't. Those ones you don't. But there are some real life stories out there. And then there was Gary's. And then I looked in detail into Gary's, and I thought he was doing actually a really good job. I mean, do I think Gary is sometimes too prudent? Do I think his communication, I think he should have his own PR department. And I told him, and it's still a small fund, which is, I mean, it doesn't really present a risk to the investor, but it's obviously only a small fund, right? It doesn't have the prestige and the reach that the ARK funds have. But I thought he had really a nice mix of things. And so I put some money in there, which gives me the right to be big mouth with him, because obviously I'm bossing him around, right? So whenever he buys something or whenever I don't like, he hears it. And he knows darn well if he would ever get into Bitcoin, that would be the day I would leave. But he's actually against Bitcoin as well. So that's an easy one.
Isn't that funny how the more we get to know someone, the more we feel comfortable saying whatever we want to them? Yeah. It's funny. If we don't know you, we'll be so polite. We'll be so polite. If I know you, but now, why are you being an idiot? Don't be stupid.
No, I mean, I said to him about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, I said to him, we should really do videos together. And he goes, no, I'm not doing videos. I hate videos. I said, okay. Now, obviously, we've gotten to the rhythm to start slowly videos. So the first one, he had his bad mic, right? And actually, that was a blessing in disguise, because I think he was really done after that, because I was hammering him and getting all these questions through. But then the next day, he said, you know what? That mic was really bad. Okay, let's do a second one. I was like, yes.
I still listen to that whole interview. That was the one with Farzad, right?
Yes, the first one. We did 2.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I watched both. The second one was definitely a lot better, but I still watched the first one. But yeah, his mic was awful. I was thinking, how does someone at his level have such a bad mic? Like, this is. I told him. This is crazy.
I know. And I said to him, you need a PR department, and he goes, because this is the mic of my Bloomberg keyboard. I said, who in the world uses a mic in a keyboard? I mean, nobody in the world. Oh, it worked before. I said, when? 20 years ago?
Yeah. I'm questioning my investments again. What are you doing? Get a good mic.
What are you?
Yeah.
So Kathy Kirkler did $100 donation in that call. And so Father, with those $100, paid him a mic, and then we set him up with a mic, and the second one was much better.
Oh, that's hilarious. 'Cause I don't think you guys actually went to or maybe you did, and I just joined a little late in the conversation. But did you talk about that on the live stream?
Yeah, Farzad explained
Okay.
at the beginning, yeah, of the
All
second one.
right, good.
But can you imagine that the guy didn't even put money on the table to buy his own mic?
Well, forget that. 2 years past COVID, like at no point did you need a mic. Like what were you doing the last couple of years? You didn't have one Zoom call where people were like, "Hey, man,
No,
this isn't great."
exactly. That I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So, all right. So you think Gary needs a PR team? Do you think Tesla needs a PR team?
Oh yes, and I've been very vocal about that. I mean, the thing is, people know me for the last 2 months because I'm making all this fuss about Moody's, right, and S&P. But I've been vocal for a year and a half, and I've have my regular sessions. And one of the threads I did this spring, I think in April, beginning of May, was about that Tesla really needs a PR team to protect Elon and to actually separate what Elon says, because Elon may say what he wants, that's not the problem, but that Elon is not the only vocal person about Tesla. That the two get separated. That Tesla talks about Tesla and Elon talks about Elon, right? And that not everything is commingled all the time. I really wish that happens. I do believe it would be a difficult cohabitation. I don't think Elon likes people representing Tesla other than him. But I think he will have to get used to it because Tesla is so big now. And us retail investors, we have the need of a stable communication. And I really hope somebody ends up listening to me and saying, and I actually feel it's getting better. Did you realize that Martin is getting out more? This Goldman Sachs story a couple of days ago, than him publishing that little video where he had nearly an accident and all that. I do feel they understand it has to improve. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it because obviously it's almost the Donald Trump effect where, any headlines, any news, even bad news is good news, right? Any press is whatever the line is. And I feel like Elon really understands that. And I think he also understands that, okay, if you have a PR team, it's almost you run the risk of giving them more ammunition. Okay, Tesla said this, but what about this? And it becomes this back and forth rather than just saying, whatever, ignore it, let it die. What I would like to see is more so Elon keeps doing what he's doing. Because a tweet from Elon will do better than a Super Bowl commercial. Yeah, no Super Bowl commercial will pale in comparison to a tweet from Elon. No matter what it is. He could say, I'm making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Boom, that's bigger than a Super Bowl commercial. But what I would like there to be is anytime like a FUD article comes out or something that comes out that's only showing half the story, there should be like a repository or a website or somewhere where Tesla manages it and they have a rebuttal to everything. That's it. Yeah. Just give a rebuttal. Here's our perspective. Yeah. Just every time. So nobody can say, but Tesla didn't respond.
That's what it is. Yeah, no, exactly. But that's what it is. That's what a PR department is. I mean, I don't mean a PR department in the old classical sense, because Tesla will never do anything in the old-fashioned sense. That we know that. So, but just somebody there who brings a fact together, slashes them with the facts, and that is it. You don't have to get into arguments with it. And will it stop the FUD? No, it won't. But at least those articles will not only be one-sided. They will also have to quote the Tesla side of it. I mean, this is low-hanging fruit. I've been saying this for months and months and months. And honestly, I hope I do see a little bit of progress. I want to believe it. I hope it's not only Martin, because can you imagine if the guy has to do now investor relation and PR and everything else? But there we are. I mean, it's better than nothing. But I really do hope and then there are subjects that could actually be even more proactive. Safety is one. I mean, Tesla safety, people don't understand. They still think Volvo is the safest car in the world. It's not. There has to be much more, and it can't just be us on Twitter. I mean, we're doing what we can, but there has to be more educational PR videos, stuff that and it has to be brought to these journals. I mean, no magazine, no journalist is going to write about it if it hasn't been prepared. They're lazy, I'm sorry to say so, but so if you don't give them ammunition, if you don't give them a subject, well, nobody's going to write about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree about that. So you did touch a second ago on the whole Goldman Sachs event that happened, the closed door event. What are your thoughts on this terminology about a robotaxi platform? I know how you feel about full self-driving beta and all that, but what are your thoughts on, I believe words matter and nuance matters, right? Very much so. And to say the phrase a robotaxi platform, the word platform, that's not something you accidentally say.
Completely agree. I mean, it's not natural, right? Nobody in the world would put robotaxi and platform together. That was exactly my thought. I was like, what is he talking about? Why platform? So I do think there is going to be a base of a robotaxi that will have multiple setups, but all being robotaxi, right? And when they will come out with the robotaxi, it will not just be one size; it will be multiple variants. I mean, you probably heard Farzad, who thinks that actually third parties will be able to equip
the airline
these fleets how they want. Yeah, exactly. So I do believe that's actually a very good idea. I said that was my coming to Jesus moment when I heard that, thinking, yeah, that makes sense. Airbus and Boeing gave it then to the airlines to equip however they want it. Now, I wonder how small the smallest robotaxi is going to be. Is it just going to be a 2-seater, or are they going to make this the smallest size, the Model 3 size, or is it, and then you need bigger ones, right? You need minibuses for families, for disabled, for transportation of goods, whatever. So I mean, the size, if really they have a platform idea, the size shouldn't be an issue anymore, because there will be variable sizes, which is a great idea. And I was wondering, is that a reason why they're not coming out with the $35,000 car? Because I wish there would be one, right? I don't know you, but me, the day they come out, I order one. That's for sure, if not two.
Yeah. So
just because.
My thought is, I think, and I have no reason to believe this is true, so let me just caveat with that. But when I heard him say robotaxi platform, my mind immediately started connecting all these different dots that I see, but maybe I see what I want to see, right? I mean, we're all guilty of that. But the dots I started connecting was that, the robotaxi platform is this $25,000 vehicle, the Model 2 or whatever you want to call it. It's just that the platform will be used. It'll be a low cost build, very economical build that we can leverage as a robotaxi, where we take out steering wheels, no pedals, maybe the seats face inward, etc. But we can also use that platform for low cost vehicles for India, for Brazil, for Argentina. And so
when you say low cost, you mean also lower range? Because I just think the robotaxi needs a long range, right? Because if you want the taxi to run left, right, and center, it needs to be, I would hope, at least 300 miles range, right? To really amortize a day's job before it needs to be charged again. And I wonder whether that idea is fixable with the lower model, whether we'll get to a $25,000 model with a 300-mile range.
Yeah,
no,
I don't.
Maybe
That's hard. I think a lot of people talk about Tesla's batteries and what they're doing with that. I don't think a lot of us really know about what's going on there. I like a lot of the things people are saying, but I don't really think anyone understands their game plan. They're making changes right now as we speak. They're looking at different chemistries. They're maybe mining lithium. I mean, whatever they're doing, they are thinking about this 5 steps ahead of what anyone is trying to think about. And so I don't know what that would be. You would hope that do you remember back in the 90s, a vehicle going 30, 40 gallons per mile would have been like, what? That doesn't exist. And then you saw things like the Jetta turbo diesel injection vehicles, and they're like, 40, 50 miles a gallon. That's amazing. Yeah. So you would think in 5-10 years from now, 300 miles, of range would be nothing. Right, that'd be easy. Yeah. So I think that'll happen eventually, but I really think that the platform is just going to be this very economical way to build a vehicle and put it out there in mass. Because otherwise, you're never going to be able to fulfill the India market or the lower people in China.
A little bit like Volkswagen conquered the world with the Beetle
Yeah.
in the good old days, right? Where they had just one model built, well, then to perfection, easy to build plants all over the world. Because I remember when they set up their Brazil plant, I mean, I'm old enough to remember that one. It was just immediately putting out cars the next day. It was just incredible, just because they had optimized the whole production in Europe so well that they could just build a new factory in Brazil and ramp up immediately. So yeah, if I hope you're right, and I completely agree with you that it was the strangest combinations of words, right? Who would say robotaxi platform, right? Nobody I've ever heard say that before, but it certainly is promising.
Yeah, it's a crazy idea. I mean, every idea is crazy until you're like, oh, it did happen, right? So
Until Tesla does it, right?
yeah, but I'm also crazy. I'm on the record. I have a pinned tweet where I think the Robotaxi will be unveiled at Tesla AI Day Part 2, and I've got.
Do you?
Yeah, I really.
You mean in 12 days?
Yeah, I think so. I have a whole video about it.
Robotaxi?
Yep.
But I'm actually wondering what this whole AI Day is about, because they clearly didn't make it a recruitment event. I mean, I do believe every event is a recruitment event, but this one is not labeled clearly a recruitment event. So, and obviously Elon said they will present a product. Do you think it's something that can be ordered that day? That they really start?
No. I think so. So I have a whole video. You guys can find it. It's what I made it more recently, but I take you through all the tea leaves or the omens. If you ever read the book The Alchemist, right, that have led me to this moment of this thought. Yeah. And so I feel like Elon, Drew, Zach have been pretty clear that it's gonna come. Now at this event, that's my speculation. But my first time really thinking about this was actually Yashu. Yashu made a very astute observation that, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to be like, oh, that's not that astute. I'm telling you, nobody was saying it. Yashu said it. It was astute. He caught on the fact that Tesla said that they will be in volume production 2024. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Work your way backwards. To be in volume production 2024, that means they have to be in production by 2023. Okay, so if they're in production by 2023, odds are that means that they're going to unveil it sometime between 2023 and now. And my thought was, Elon has definitely channeled his inner Steve Jobs. We saw it with the Semi when the Roadster came out. We saw it with the Cybertruck and, the different things that they were trying to do, the gimmickiness. They had, it almost looked like a Matrix scene with people coming out the Cybertruck in their outfits and everything and throwing the ball out the window and all that. At Tesla AI Day Part 1, oh, one more thing. We're doing humanoids now out of nowhere. Yeah. It almost seems natural at AI Day Part 2. Okay, they're going to talk about Dojo. They're going to talk about full self-driving. They're going to show us some cool stuff with the humanoid, I'm sure. But it's almost natural for them to be like, oh yeah, one more thing. Check this out. Here's the Robotaxi. Wow. Even if it's like a little hint of something, maybe we just see silhouette, who knows? I'm not saying it's going to be a full thing where you can buy it that day.
If that's right, I'd be delighted, no doubt about it. But I mean, I do believe it's early. I'd rather see that happening first half of next year and having a special day for it. Just because, can you imagine explaining robotaxis to people who have no idea about yet? How much more it takes?
But I think that will happen. I do think, and I talked about this in that video that I made.
You think it's just a teaser?
I think it's just like the humanoid was a teaser. This AI Day will be the real unveil of the humanoid as far as what they've accomplished. Yeah. I think it's the same kind of thing. I mean, they tease us with the Roadster, right? We still don't have it, but it's just it's just my little.
Do you have a Roadster? Do you have a Roadster on order? No.
No, right? No. I'm not gonna lock up that much cash.
No, exactly, and that's exactly my thinking. I'm like, I could, but do I want to put this money now? No way.
Yeah. I have a Cybertruck on reservation, but that's only $100. But
exactly, I have two.
Yeah, do you? Yeah.
I have two with the hope that by then I live in Vegas and I make them run as robotaxis in Vegas, because I just think, can you imagine the Cybertruck as a robotaxi there?
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, hopefully in the next year we go ahead and there's this little area we want to buy land in, or land. We want to buy a house and tear it down and build our own house. And I'm already planning on making sure it's big enough for the Cybertruck. Like, these are already thoughts going on in the mind. So we're just waiting to see what's going on with the economy then, just to see. I think housing is going to come down more. Maybe not in this area, we'll see. But what are your thoughts on that with everything going on right now?
Housing? I mean, I'm currently not buying because I think Vegas is going down. I don't follow all the market, but I mean, I do have a view. I do have a view on Florida because lots of my clients are in Florida. I do believe housing will come down. And I do believe the Fed is not understanding what they're doing by raising taxes, by raising rates again. I think this is stupid what they're doing. I
didn't want you to say that. I was hoping you wouldn't say that, but I feel the same way.
Yeah, it really breaks my heart, but it will break the housing market. If they bring mortgage rates definitely over 6%, that's going to be a major one. 6% is a lot of money for people who have been for 20 years used to much lower rates, right? 4.5, fair enough, but 6% people really think. And then just put yourself in the role of people who have to sell a house. So you sell a house, you get less money, but with that less money and that less equity you have, the next house you buy is going to be less than what you just sold, right? Just because the mortgage rates will be so much higher, and that's going to be really bittersweet.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think in general with regards to the Fed, though? Do you think they're just behind and they're trying to play catch up, or do you think they are just so deliberately looking at historical numbers rather than seeing what's going on in the future?
I mean, I don't think they're that stupid. I don't want to believe they're that stupid, because if they are, that'll be really, disappointing. I also think it's actually more political than what we want to. So the elections in November, I think, are going to have an impact. So I always feel this chicken and egg problem between politics and the Fed. They try to be independent, but then you suddenly feel pressure from the politics onto the Fed. They don't do something, or they do it late. And I do believe that Congress will change in November. So that may bring the Fed of becoming more reasonable again. But at the moment, they feel that the current administration is just printing too much money and want to send a signal that they want to raise rates if that continues to be the case. And just it breaks my heart because it's the wrong policy.
Yeah, it's so hard to know what the right thing to do is, but it's very clear that, I mean, I'm just, I got told in a comment once, stop saying you're just an engineer. You're a damn engineer. I was like, all right, sorry. I'm an engineer. I'm not in finance. Yeah. So I everything I say is obviously self-taught or, self-exploration. But I think it's pretty common knowledge that as you hike rates, it takes time for that to permeate through an economy. Yeah. Obviously, the Fed knows that. They all must know that. And we're seeing signs of it, right? I mean, right now we're at 2.25 on the Fed's fund rate. We obviously haven't seen the effects of all of that yet. They must know that. So I don't know. It really seemed like before Jackson Hole, it seemed like, Jerome Powell does get this. Fed chairman does get this, because it seemed like he pivoted a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, then that was over quickly.
And then Jackson Hole happened.
That just killed it in 10 minutes, exactly. That was that. Yeah. I mean, I do believe they know what they're doing, but there are influences to it, and there are priorities, right? If you consider inflation is your priority, and then also, let's give them at least a slack. Who has come out of a pandemic before? None of us, right? So coming out of a pandemic is just such a different event. Supply chain crisis. I mean, everything came together at the wrong moment in the wrong scenario. So navigating out of it is also for them a first, right? Because all the retro looks that you can have are never adaptable to this scenario. What we're having here is really very specific. But nevertheless, I think inflation is going to come down, and by them raising rates, they're actually going to provoke exactly the opposite of what they want. Because by raising rates, the housing market will become worse. Currently, most of the inflation is food and rents. if the housing market gets worse, rents will go up even higher because people don't want to buy, so they're going to rent, and so rents will go up. So they're actually just having the inverse effect of what they want to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's almost a catch-22. And the other thing I don't think that really gets enough talk about is the fact, well, before I go into that, everybody freaked out with this CPI print, 8.3. And everybody act as if inflation went up. 8.3 was a decrease in CPI.
Yeah.
Inflation still came down. And it seemed like that story got missed. It's like nobody wants to talk about that. Okay, it wasn't 8.
Well, because they expected really a negative monthly print, which wasn't negative, right? But I mean, I agree with you. It is slowing. There's no doubt about it. It's slowing. I actually think inventory is building up. I mean, I'm not much of a big shopper, but the little shopping I do, these shops, I mean, the Target of Santa Barbara, full, everything. And obviously people are very cautious of what they're purchasing, and this is Santa Barbara, right? We're not a poor city, and so I do believe there's actually a risk of them raising rates. I mean, they have thousands of economists, right? The Fed is not just a couple of old guys sitting together one day and is deciding what they want to do. They have lots and lots of people behind it which know much more than we know and which have much more in-depth analysis. And I just wonder why at the moment all they concentrate on is the headline inflation number, because that's not it. That's The other thing is they're talking about full employment. Well, we may be at full employment, but 500,000 people due to long COVID illnesses are not back in the workforce, and a lot of people are not anymore in the employment statistics because they have become independent contractors during COVID, and they enjoy it, and they don't want to be in a W-2 job climate anymore. So all these numbers are screwed. They're not the same anymore, yet they're still relying on them to make their decisions. And I just wonder why. Why is nobody taking a more up-to-date look at it?
Yeah. And there's a whole nother element to it too. I mean, if you look at everything we're talking about and you pretend that's the micro and you look at the macro as in the world economy, China's slowing down, Europe's slowing down, right? Yeah. What does that do to help reduce inflation, right? Because if everything slows down and then you add in the funds rates and then you add in the sucking out of the monetary or the amount of monetary
recession. Exactly.
It's everything is slowing down, and I just wonder if the Fed accounts for that or not.
And you see it actually already in the currency. I don't know whether you've seen euro. I mean, obviously you do because you're going to Europe. I've seen
the euro. Trust me. I texted my in-laws, and I was like, "It's gonna be a great time to go to Europe," and they're like, "Yeah, unfortunately, we already paid for everything." I was like, "Yeah, well, you'll get good deal on food."
Which is true. I mean, it's crazy, right? Under $1. That's been long until we've seen that.
The pound. That's crazy.
I know. And so, given all that, raising rates, I think, is actually the worst thing they can do. But they will do. Everybody seems to agree it's going to be at least 0.75% maybe even a whole percent. I will have to do with it. I mean, maybe the silver lining, because I always try to see a silver lining everywhere, is that maybe it's the last time. It's too much, no doubt about it, but at least maybe that's the top of it, and from there on we can relax.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it almost seems like they should just do a 50 basis point rate hike, just to that way you still get your rate hike that you want, right? You're hedging, right? You're not doing the full 75, you're doing a 50, and so you're at least still moving in the direction you think you should be, while paying attention to everything else. It just,
I mean, if it's 50, the market is going to rally because they will take it well.
Boom.
But I don't see. I think they feel under pressure to do something. I mean, there are lots of hawkish people in there that really only look at inflation, talk about inflation. I always wonder these weeks of the Fed, how many people can be on CNBC, right? It's just endless, right?
I say that so much to CNBC, like. Stephen Mark Ryan has infected my brain. It's like I can only say CNBC. It sounds better. It just sounds better. Like I know it's an insult, but it sounds better.
I agree with you. I always say to my husband, I got Stephen Mark Ryan here and I got Fawcett here.
Yeah. No, and it's funny.
infiltrating my
And
brain.
I actually like CNBC. Like I watch Squawk Box every morning. We wake up at 5:45. We have our coffee.
Joe.
I watch
Mhm.
Joe, Ross, and Becky every morning.
Mhm.
I don't always
Do
agree
you know
with
I was
things they're
actually
saying,
on
but
there?
oh, were
I was
you?
actually on there 20 years ago. Yeah, that was, I mean, that was great. I was on a boat then in Cannes was MIPIM. MIPIM was the biggest commercial real estate congress in the world. And then it was in Cannes. So Cannes was obviously very beautiful, whatever. And I was the Moody's lead analyst, senior credit officer for real estate investment trusts. So it was not natural that I was there. And I had a couple of press meetings, and CNBS came up
Yeah.
and said, "You want to go on Squawk?" And I said, "Well, why not, right?" And on it was. So it's really funny. That's 2002, I think. Yeah,
Wow, that's awesome.
funny. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it is.
I
It's
love them.
funny.
They're my morning crew, and again, it's to me, watching them, it's the most unbiased type of cable news I can watch. It's
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
balanced. It seems.
I think Andrew is not neutral. Becky's not getting older. I mean, I look at Becky, I'm like, what's this? Why is she not getting older? I mean, I know that she my age. I just can't believe it. And obviously, I love Joe, and I love when Joe was defending Elon. Remember that after
Yeah,
that Saturday Night Live,
yeah. He
how
said he's a
how
fanboy. He's
emotional he
like, how
was.
can I not be? I give
Oh,
up. Yeah.
oh, yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
Hey, so I'm curious. So you're would you say you're German? What I mean, obviously you're born there, but like, would you say you're German, or would you say you're more something
Mm.
else?
Um, it's a good question, and it's actually I'll answer in two parts. In a year and a half, I can ask my U.S. citizenship, and as a German, you cannot have double citizenship.
Oh, so you have to
You have to give
renounce.
up your German.
Yes.
Exactly, but you can do a procedure to tell them why you think you should be having an exception. So I did the procedure. I'm waiting for the answer. And I'm not very passionate about the answer. So if they don't grant it to me, be it. But at least I wanted to have my conscience clear that I tried, right?
Mm-hmm.
For my parents, for my brother and sister. I wanted to have this feeling I
Yeah.
gave it a try. And if they decide it's not worth it, then at least it's not me, right? I tried. But what I really want to be is American. I mean, I've come to love this country. I think free speech means much more here. I know everybody else tells me, oh, there is no free speech in America. There is. I mean, look at me. I'm talking from morning to evening. I'm telling everybody what I
Yeah.
think, and nobody's stopping me. I think the economy is the only economy I have experienced where entrepreneurs can strive easily. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've tried in London, I've tried in Germany, and I've tried in France. I mean, I've succeeded. I'm not saying I haven't succeeded, but it's much easier here in the United States. So I really feel American, and I want to be an American.
Wow. Wow. That was heavy. I wasn't expecting you to say that, to be honest. My
There you go.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's great. That's awesome to hear that. And hey, congrats on getting your citizenship soon. So
Yeah.
let me go back to what I was gonna ask. So you were born in Germany. Obviously, your family's in Germany. You still have
Yeah.
a pride of it, so you're gonna try to keep that citizenship
Sure.
as well to be a dual citizen. What's your sense on the German? I mean, everybody knows Germany, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, right? I mean, everybody knows like the prowess in the auto industry. Do you think that Giga Berlin will be taken in as a German company or German manufacturing company, a German vehicle? Do you think that the people will see it that way, or do you think in Germany it'll always be still dominated by these entrenched, legacy companies?
Oh, Tesla will have huge success in Germany, and do understand that out of Berlin, they're not only selling to Germany, they're selling to France, to the
Europe,
Netherlands,
yes,
to everywhere,
yes.
exactly everywhere. And so I have no doubt that whatever Berlin produces is sold. Will it be considered a German car? No, it will always be Tesla. It's actually funny. I read that a while ago. People don't understand Tesla is an American brand. I don't know what they think it is, whether they think it's a Chinese brand or whether it's whatever, but lots of people don't understand in the rest of the world that Tesla is American. And I don't actually think Tesla is playing to be seen as an American brand.
Yeah.
I have the feeling Tesla is sort of the world brand, right? Like, I mean, Apple, everybody understands it's really Silicon Valley, but Tesla, I have the feeling people don't understand the nationality of the brand. So to the second part of your question, how will German automakers survive? I think it's very difficult. And to spill a little bit more coffee or tea, is my brother is very heavily involved in the board of BMW. So I have a little bit of insight, and I have to say they are so far behind, which is such a shame because, as I said earlier, I had the i3, which of course was a compliance car, right? They had the i3 in California because they needed an electric vehicle to be able to continue sell the rest of their cars in California. But they were actually quite advanced at that moment with concepts of making cute electric cars. If at that moment they would have just put more emphasis on it, this could have gone somewhere. They had not only the i3, they also had a sports car, the i8, if I remember right, which was a cute sports car, right? So there was a niche for them to explore. Mercedes, I always felt was late to the game. Volkswagen had a chance, but obviously now they got rid of Herbert Diess, and I doubt that they will become. I think Germany still believes they can bring an alternative energy source other than electric cars out. I don't believe so. I just don't think it's easy to have an infrastructure of whatever else you wanna do. I do believe electricity is the way to go. And I think they understand they've lost the electric game. So my best case scenario, I'm always coming back to that. People don't believe that will happen, but who knows, that we will see in the end cars, a Mercedes that looks like a Mercedes, but that has inside the whole software is Tesla, right? So software, full self-driving, everything, so that you have, because they're just so bad at software. They're so bad at batteries and they're so bad at software. I mean, how much worse can it get?
I mean, going back to what you were saying earlier about your experience in the Bolt or the BMW, I mean, really everything you said was software related. And I mean, that just goes back to what we all keep saying, that Tesla's not just a car company, right? They have so many, right? They have so many software engineers that are just next level. I mean, I posted a video the other day of Jeff Bezos. And he was talking about Amazon Web Services, AWS, what everybody knows as the cloud. You know it because of Amazon, because of Jeff Bezos. Well, Andy Jassy. Andy Jassy created AWS. And what in this interview, and I posted this, Jeff Bezos says, it was crazy to us. Year after year, for 7 years, we're the only ones doing this. Nobody else was doing this. So we had a 7-year head start. And that's how I feel about Tesla, with not just the electric vehicle, but the software. It's like they have a 10-year head start before anyone actually took it seriously. And so what happens here?
When I look at those teardowns from Sandy Munro, right? I mean, that's my simple way of trying to understand, what manufacturing a car means. And he tears down these other cars, and I'm looking at it, I think they look like they're 50 years old. Nothing looks modern, nothing looks slick, nothing looks integrated. Everything seems to, and then for Volkswagen, I did a little bit of research. They have 40,000 suppliers. Can you imagine running a company with 40,000 suppliers? Well, I have a client for whom I did a green card who explained to me, he's one of the first tier suppliers to these large OEMs. When they work on a new car, it's 3 years before launch. So in 2022, they work on a car that will come out in 2025. I mean, Tesla innovates every week.
Yes.
Right? They're not working 3 years ahead of the final release of a car. It just seems so antiquated. So obviously, if you are 3 years running behind, if you're building today the car of 2025, by the time it is 2025, well, you're 3 years behind.
Yeah.
Because Tesla would have continued innovating.
And that goes back to that notion. I mean, just going back to the software piece there, regarding, I mean, you said you see a vision of Tesla software being in like a Mercedes. I mean, Apple, we're in an interesting space or time right now because Apple came out with their Apple CarPlay, right? Or the new version.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these automakers are starting to wake up to the fact that the value is no longer in the physical, the hardware. It's in the software. And if they allow Apple to come in to do the thing that they suck at, it's game, set, match for them. Apple takes over. And so I think we're going to see less and less of that happening.
Especially since everybody has understood that Apple is just not a tender partner for margins, right? I mean, Apple 30% on exactly. I mean, they are the real greedy ones of this world. So you may like Apple, and obviously it's a perfect business concept. But if you start inviting Apple into your car as a software, first of all, that doesn't mean everything is solved, right? I haven't seen anything on car exactly. So and the other thing is there are a couple of tweets out there from Elon where he says we are open to licensing our software. He stated that you put in the search engine of Twitter.
But that was more about full self-driving. I don't know if he's talking
you
about...
think so?
I think so. I think...
I'm not sure.
I mean, you could be right. I mean, I would hope you're right. but the way I understood it would be full self-driving.
Right? You can take 25.
yeah, that's fine. As a shareholder, go ahead, Elon. Let everybody license it. Get out of the hardware game. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. But I definitely think that things are changing. It sucks though because I am happy to see Ford going with the F-150 for Lightning. I'm happy to see Porsche start to more of the iconic brands take electric because they can. Even Ford with the Mustang, even though it's not a Mustang, I'm sorry, that was my first car. It was a Mustang. All right, so I told you I bought my first car after college, and it was a Mustang. Yeah. And so I have a part of my soul that is I know what a Mustang is, and that's not it. Call it something else. Just don't call it a Mustang. But I think these iconic
what
brands,
don't you like? Don't you like the outside or the fact that just it doesn't go with the image of an electric car?
No, it's just not a Mustang. A Mustang is two doors. It's an aggressive look. It's a pony car, right? You got Mustangs, you got Challengers, you got Chargers. It's this muscle car ideology.
So did you sell your Mustang for your Tesla? Was that the?
Well, actually, we went down to a one-car household because we just never traveled. So I sold my Mustang and I took that money and I put half of it into Tesla and I put the other half into a new garage gym because when COVID shut down, I said to myself, I will never go through not being able to have a gym again. I would never do it again. But yeah, but there's these iconic brands that we don't want to be without, I don't think. Like a 911. Oh my God. Like, could you imagine a world without a 911?
No, I mean I had one and I loved it. Absolutely loved the car. But I have to say, we will have those. Like there are people still having horses, and there's still people having old cars that they really cherish. But I don't think that those will be the cars that people purchase when they make a reasonable choice anymore. I mean, I don't have anybody around me here in Santa Barbara, my friends, my clients that I see in person that wants to buy something else, an electric car as the next car. Everybody, and it's not as if I'm pushing them. I mean, they all know I'm crazy about Tesla, but they all say, my next car is going to be an electric car. They may not all have the budget for a Tesla, so they may buy a Bolt if that's the only one around by then, because there's not so much around, right? The Polestar, maybe, but it's not a cheap car either. So if somebody has a $30,000-$40,000 budget, there's not much choice yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I forget who I was listening to today. I forget. It might have been Meet Kevin. It was someone, but they're talking about how there are certain monopolistic companies out there that technically not monopolies, but they are monopolies, right? YouTube is a monopoly. I don't care what anyone says.
It is,
Google,
right?
Google's a monopoly. Amazon, in my opinion, is a monopoly at this point.
It is. Yeah.
When you say electric vehicle, I feel like in everybody's head, it goes, oh, so you're getting a Tesla. Like, I feel like that's the instant reaction. It's like Kleenex, Band-Aid, it's elevator. It's synonymous with that thing.
I agree with you. But then there is obviously, well, it's getting better, but there was the long wait time. And then there is the price, right? There is not everybody will be at that price. We have to just admit to that.
So yes, I want to talk about the wait times in a second. But as far as the price, I push back on that because I know a lot of people who, this is gonna sound awful, but who should not have Teslas that have Teslas. It reminds me so much of when the iPhone came out and how expensive the iPhone was, and everybody was saying, "Who's gonna afford this? Who's gonna pay that much for an iPhone? I can just go get a BlackBerry for a couple $100. Why would I pay, $1,500 for an iPhone?" But guess what? People found the budget for it. People reallocated their lives for that thing, and I think that's happening with Tesla.
Yeah, you got a point. But I mean, it is, if people lease it, it's more than, usually people have a lease of $300. If you take the Model 3, you have a lease of $600. If you finance, you have double of that. If you pay cash, well, it's more than what you usually would put down. And actually in America, lots of people don't buy a car cash. They lease. Either finance or lease. Yeah. And so that does, I mean, it puts a dent into their budget.
In the United States, nobody pays cash. Everybody finances.
Crazy, right? I did the other day a comparison. GM and Ford have 4 and 6% of operating margin on their car business, but 30% operating margin on their loan business, on their financing business.
Yeah,
that's where we are, right?
That's what they are. They're a service company and a lender. That's what they are.
I know. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, so going back to the whole wait time thing. Well, actually, hold on. Before we get to that, sorry. And by the way, do you have a stop time? Because if you can't tell, I can talk forever.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Well, let's give it another 10 minutes because we're already 2 hours in.
Yeah. All right. So I'll give you 2 more questions. So first of all, what are your thoughts between financing versus leasing?
To tell you the truth, we have always leased, which is obviously financially not the right option. But first of all, arriving here in the United States, we had no clue how it would be to sell a car. So I just had the comfort of leasing. I mean, not that it wasn't a nice experience giving back the car to BMW that I talked about earlier, but at least you knew there was an end to it. The second thing is, it's just half the price, right? If you have the same maturity, the same car, in leasing, it costs you half as much as it would in financing. And us, the main reason was that we really want to have the latest models. I don't want to have a car for more than 3 years. I'm a spoiled brat. That's what I work for, and I want to have the latest model. When we changed the 2020 Model 3 to the 2022, I mean, it's a completely new car. It looks the same, but it's not the same. And I just want to have that luxury of having always the latest. So we're leasing, but I completely understand it's financially not viable. It's money thrown out of the window. That's just it.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. My father in Spain, I mean, they lease, same kind of story. I mean, they were living in Panama before COVID hit, and then they moved to Spain. And, it's just when you're moving that much, especially going from country to country, continent to continent.
No assets.
Yeah. It's
no assets.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So there's a lot of talk right now about the Tesla wait times coming down, especially in China. And obviously, you can layer in all kinds of things, right? I guarantee you, next couple of weeks, we start seeing crazy videos like, "Oh, Tesla has a supply problem or a demand problem," and all of a sudden, you're gonna start seeing it. Yeah. Do you think? What are your thoughts on that? But I don't want to give my thoughts on it. I want you to be unbiased.
I mean, I'm a patron from Troy, so I have to be careful what I say because maybe not all of it may already be out. But what I understood,
by the way,
and what
shout out to Troy. Talk about amazing.
The best.
Just if you're not subscribed to Troy, you got to get subscribed to him. Like he's.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of Patreons, but I wouldn't live without the Patreon of James and of Troy because they're just absolutely. I have a couple more because I just want to support as many people as I can, but I have to say, those two are indispensable. So, why are suddenly wait times down to a week in China? Well, first of all, we all saw how they closed in June and July to ramp up. Now they've ramped up, right? I mean, so we're going to cry now that they've ramped up, and nothing better than having ramped up. The second is, I think the 1 week wait time is really for very close destinations, meaning really people that are living close now. China is enormous. They will not deliver in a week a car at the other end of China. That's not what's going to happen. But they will be able to have stock available for the ones that live close and just decided now to order and will have it. Once this end of quarter is over, because this is a push, they just try to get out as much as they can. It's too late to transport these cars far, so they give these people this opportunity. I wouldn't worry about it at all. I'm a little bit more reserved on wait times in America. I've talked about that before, just because I think lots of people will push back their delivery to January to have that $7,500 tax reduction, which is fair enough. And I want to see how Tesla navigates around that. Will they just export more cars from Fremont now? I mean, the ramp in Austin is not glorious, right? I mean, 10,000 cars by now. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not as if Austin is gonna make the big change for Q3. It certainly won't, not with those 10,000 cars. So it's still Fremont. So I want to see what's happening with that Fremont production. Will people take those deliveries? Will they get incentives to still take them? Or will they ship them outside of the US? I mean, the world is huge. That they're selling every single car that they're producing is no question to me. But I agree with you. We'll have a couple of FUD videos. Gordon Johnson will explain to whoever wants to listen to him that now we obviously have too many Teslas and there's going to be a supply problem.
And you're right. China is huge. I mean, if you just think, I think our most populated city is, I think, New York City. And I think they only have about 9 million people there. China has so many cities with over 20 million people. So many. Yeah. Like it's not even a comparison. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm not too worried, honestly, about Q4 with the $7,500 tax credit. I think there's going to be enough people who had their orders already in and the price have gone up. And that $7,500 credit will be more of a $2,000-$3,000 credit. And they'll say, I mean, what is that on a finance loan? I mean, it's not worth me waiting another 6 months. It's definitely not worth that. Yeah. So I think that's going to be the saving grace for Tesla in Q4 with that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, like Shanghai is ramping up like crazy, and so before it was they can't ramp up well enough, or they're shut down. Now their delivery times are coming down. 3 months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's the other thing. Just because, let's say that the delivery times came down to 1 week, that doesn't mean the demand is low. Because
it doesn't.
No,
it just means you can produce and you get them out. Exactly.
Yeah, because if I can produce 1 million cars a day and the delivery time is 1 day, well, I'm still delivering 1 million a day. It just means I can keep up with that. So yeah. And I think as
they
lead
just
times
don't
come
put
down,
those things together.
Yeah, as lead times come down, the pie grows, I think, as well. It's like a leverage or a lever they can pull without having to drop prices. It's just drop lead times. So that's interesting.
I mean, and I can't even believe we're thinking about that. 3 weeks ago, nobody was even worried that we would ever have a demand problem. Yeah. We don't have a demand problem. We don't. No. It's just they have increased production and they want to give a short window to some people being close to Shanghai to pick up their cars now. That's it. But I mean, they're going to make a story out of it, of course. I mean, did we ever get spared on any FUD stories? No. So
no.
We're going to have this as well.
It just adds to the resiliency, gives you more opportunities to buy at lower, and it's par for the course. I think if you make it through 2022, it's like making it through any other crazy time period in Tesla. I mean,
that's true.
It's a crazy year to be invested. All right, so again, like I said, I can talk forever if you can't tell. I'll let you go, but I do have one more question for you. Just
go ahead.
If you even want to answer this, because everybody is out there with different numbers. Say 2030, whether it's Tesla stock price, whether it's Tesla. What do you see by 2030, which is, I mean, really only 7 years away?
I think we'll be between 5,000 and 6,000 in the stock price. I mean, I tell you, I'm not doing big modeling, but I do see that. And I do believe we have the 20 million. I'm not sure it's 20 million cars produced to sell to retail. Mm-hmm. It could be very well fleets. It could be very well that it's actually 20 million softwares. My whole theory that let the other people still do the hardware. But I'm quite confident that 20 million is there.
Yeah. And Elon's even said, like, I love when he just says little comments like, All right, sure. Think whatever you want. You'll see. Or just wait till you see what we come out with.
Yeah, and I mean, exactly. I mean, fair enough. He may not be always on time, but he's always delivered. So there's just no reason to doubt the guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, Alexandra, thank you so much. It was an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the
And
conversation.
thank you for having me for a wedding, and enjoy the wedding in Greece. And we want pictures all over Twitter because that's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, if you want to see anything about our lives, go look at my YouTube shorts. We try to, if we travel or anything, we always make YouTube shorts. They're like a minute long.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, they're cool. But Alexandra, thank you so much. Cheers to you.
Thank you. There we go. Cheers.
Cheers to everybody who spent their Sunday with us, especially during football games. I understand they're going on, so thank you all. And hey, check out her channel. You have a channel too, right? I know it's not a channel, but it's somewhere you post when you want to post.
Exactly. So there's Tesla Boomer Mama on video, there's Tesla Boomer Mama on Twitter, and there's my Substack. So please check it out.
All right. Appreciate everybody. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye, Nick.